Welcome to our high school lead contact meeting. There's a few things I'm going to go over real quick, and then I'm going to hand it off to Joshua Steinman to talk about the free resources available to you. The first thing I have is there is a cybersecurity camp going on this summer for UAH called Gen Cyber. It's July 18th through the 22nd. Any of your STEM teachers are welcome. There's a $30 or 30 people is the cap to it. And there will be offered a stipend of $669.44, but lodging will not be paid or food expenses. And I put in the chat a Google form that you can fill out if you're interested in that. And then also the deadline to complete the professional development sessions is on May 15th. Is there anything else I need to add?
I don't think so. Does anybody have questions before we get started?
Does anyone have questions about that, about the camp or the deadline for the sessions? Or anything in general with STEM.LD? No. Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to Joshua Sneidman. Am I saying your last name correctly?
You are. Thank you.
Good. I think you have the ability to share your screen. So
Yep.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for your time and everything you do every day in and out for students. Can you guys hear me?
Joshua, we can't hear you.
Some people can. I think I saw a thumbs up. Yep, people hear me. Hello. All right. So again, thank you for your time and for your willingness to take a look at some free resources. So the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce is providing two programs, Learning.Blade and something called TN Caps, free statewide. In the chat box, have you heard of Learning.Blade before or heard of TN Caps before? That'd be interesting to see yeses and nos. Harold's a yep. I think that's a yep for that question. But no, I'm seeing some no's. No. This is great because I think you're going to like what you have to see here. A lot of no's. Spectacular. So I've worked with schools across Tennessee and really across the nation in 40 states to implement these programs. Millions of lessons have been completed. And what the focus of both are, and the reason the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce is involved, is to help students explore the career paths. I like to say students can't be what they can't see. So if they don't know it exists, it's hard for them to express an interest in it. As you all know, in Tennessee, we live in a really rich state with Tennessee Promise. So the community colleges and the technical community colleges offer an incredible pathway to careers. And many of those careers are high demand, high wage. And we're going to try and highlight that for students through the different resources here. Learning.Blade, it says aligned to grades 5 to it's a grades 5 through 9 program. But actually some of my biggest users are 10th and 11th grades because they still need career exploration. TN Caps has everything in TN Caps is broken down by age range. So it has a K2 band, a 3-5 band, a 6-8 band, and a 9-12 band. So you have high school lessons here in TN Caps as well. And the beautiful thing about TN Caps, and I've witnessed personally this in action, is through working with the chamber, we have correlated businesses and industries that are interested in zooming into your classroom, are interested in visiting your classroom, that have internships and externship opportunities, and they've self-populated and listed themselves in the resource. So I think I'm going to go through this by starting with TN Caps and just explain what TN Caps is and show you some of that. I'll log in live and show you it live, and then I'll log into Learning.Blade live and show you that live. But obviously, 65% of jobs will not or do not require a 4-year degree. So the landscape is changing significantly. and community colleges are a really great place for that. We're not just focused on community college, but we definitely want to make sure that's part of the discussion. And then, you know, rural areas experience the shortage of skilled talent. It's just amazing to me with the Zoom workforce and the working from home and the remote workers. You know, if you have a skill set in computer science or in technology or in IT, you can stay in your rural community and make big bank. And that's why we're seeing so much change in population dynamics as people move back to rural regions to work in remote jobs. So there's a lot of opportunities, and the Tennessee Chamber thinks it's critical to provide resources to expose students to those opportunities. So the TNCAP system, CAP stands for Career Awareness Preparation System, is a website. It's just www.tncaps.com or tn-caps.com. And when you get there, you'll find K-12 lesson plans that have student-ready resources and handouts, and it's embedded with industry information. So each lesson has a link to local careers. It shows the students an academic lesson that connects to local careers. It has the salary outlook for those careers. It is aligned to Tennessee standards. And really what we're trying to do is add, you know, to sprinkle in, to provide teachers an additional resource. I think right now this slide's old. There's 180 companies, Tennessee-based companies in TNCAPS. And the TNCAPS lesson plans right now are, as you can see here, CNC operator, computer programmer, database administrator, data scientist. So a teacher could find local businesses and industries that have aligned to those lessons, do a lesson plan, invite that career professional in, and really, and hopefully use that opportunity to inspire some students, or at least connect them with careers that they were unaware of. I like to think about it this way. In my middle school classroom, I taught middle school for 10 years and was an Albert Einstein Fellow at the Department of Energy. In my experience in those things, in those paths, when students say they want to be a veterinarian, they don't realize that there's also other pathways to working with animals in the environment, like an environmental engineer or a water quality specialist, or, you know, an environmental protection agency. So trying to expand their sites, I think, is a good thing. So this is what the website looks like, tn-caps.com. I'll put it in the chat box if anyone wants to click the link. Let me put it to everyone, but I think you all can see that, www.tn-caps.com. And when you go there, you would say that you're with a school. Now, something I would ask you to do and to consider to do, if you're a school, if you're a system that already has some nice relationships with local businesses, ask them to fill out the business survey. And then that will collect their most up-to-date contact information, as well as what opportunities they have present. So, but if you're with a school, you'll come in here and you'll choose your district and your school and the grade range of lesson plans you want to see. And then what you're going to get are well-defined lessons that include discussion questions, video lessons, career connections, outlook for salary, and then the handouts for students to do an activity in the context of that career. So in this case, we're looking at nursing and, you know, looking at pulse rate and respiration and blood pressure, and having students do an activity like that. But the other thing is, when you go to nursing, you can come there and you can see the local health organization has entered their data. Here's the contact information. They're happy to come and do a speaker visit, virtual or in person. They're happy to come to your career fair. They have, they'll work with your young students in different fields. They'll mentor students. So they're saying like what level of engagement their company wants to have. And our experience with the chamber and with businesses is they are begging for more opportunities to expose students to what's happening locally, to the business opportunities, so that students can see that and maybe choose paths that will get them there. So we're very excited about this, and so much so that we went out as a company and we did visits to different classrooms and talked about, how, technology is used in learning. And so we did an education technology lesson with students. So, this really benefits the teachers. That's where I want to focus, because it's easy to use lesson plans. I used to love having professionals come into my classroom, but I also struggled finding contacts and finding ways to engage that, to make that happen. It always was like, this parent this year does this, I'll invite them in, versus my local businesses that are going to sustain this and do it year after year and be part of the school system and engage. We're trying to build this. I was just yesterday at the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network Summit, where community partnerships was one. I mean, every session, people were talking about community partnerships as a critical puzzle piece in supporting the STEM learning, but also in just building students' awareness and understanding of, how their skills relate to the real world. So that's TNCAPS. And let me go live there and just show you a couple things about it. So I'm going to go to tncaps.com. I'm going to say I'm with a school. And then you can say, check out the lesson plans by clicking here. Select a school district. Give me someone type in the chat box a district that I can put in here. So it's local to you guys. Chat box. There we go. Greenville City Schools. Great. Your schools are already listed in here, right? Great. And I'm going to say I'm, with the 9th and 10th and 11th, 12th grade, and get started with TNCAPS. And I can already see there's employers in the area, right? So I can look at Bay Systems and I can find out who's the contact. What are they willing to do, right? Out of Kingsport. And so they're already saying, please contact us. We want to get in touch with you. And so I think that's a wonderful thing. But when I click on, when I click on Bay Systems, it's saying related careers, truck driver, industrial maintenance. Honestly, I was just at one of the sessions yesterday was talking about industrial maintenance and how there is so many job openings for industrial maintenance right now. So here's an example. I could click on download lesson for industrial maintenance and get a 9/12 lesson plan. I can also see other regional businesses related to industrial maintenance, right? And related industries. So this is helping connect teachers to those career paths. I'm going to go ahead and download the lesson plan. It asks how many students I'm going to work with. So, you put in your classroom number of students. That number doesn't affect what you get. It's just sort of us cataloging how many students use the resource. It's showing that salary range for students. It's having an additional link out to the Career One Stop from the federal government. It's telling you about Bay Systems, but it's also telling you about Brock Group and Cooper Standard and all these other organizations in your area and their contact information. I hope that's exciting for you guys. It is for me as a classroom teacher to have direct contact. And then here's your lesson plan. So repair versus replace, which is students are going to look at industrial maintenance, just making that decision. Do we repair it? Do we replace it? Using a cost worksheet. And then activity number 2 is disassemble, reassemble. And so there's some career videos, there's classroom discussion prompts, and then there's the handouts, right? So let's get down to the handouts. And we've got the rubric, right? For each one, and then the student handouts. So the students looking at the data, analyzing the data, filling in the blanks, seeing if they can read the graph, answer the activity questions, and so on and so forth. So you have lesson plans right there for you with the career connections. Any questions about that? Does that look like something that could be useful? Pretty self-explanatory as well, which is nice. It's not really a challenging website to get into. I'm going to go back to the homepage because I do want to just say, I think it'd be spectacular, to get, parents, even in one of your newsletters out to parents. Hey, are you willing to come visit schools? Go ahead and fill out this link, because then it's going to tag them to their county and their district and their region, and then you'll have their data. Good question, Principal Martin McDonald. Where do you see the lessons being administered? So I think, that's a good question. So there's a couple different answers for that. Obviously, in the CTE pathway classes, that could happen. You could also do that as an enrichment activity in a math or science class, right? If you have like a assembly day where your schedules get messed up and you're looking for something to just throw a curveball at students. I know there's so much an emphasis on making sure the core content is covered, but in my experience, and raise your hand if you've ever had students ask you this, when will I ever use this, right? It's such a critical question that adding these lessons, Principal McDonald, once a month, we're going to do one career a month. Like it's, you're adding value by helping students see that real world connection. So I don't know if that's.
This is Vicki Kirk at the Nice Wonder Foundation. Can I interject one other suggestion?
I love it. Go, Vicki, go.
A lot of high schools have the skinny period or your RTI period in the school day somewhere, and this would be a great addition to that coursework for your kids to be able to do career exploration if they weren't being remediated in some way or tutored in some way. It's just something you could add to your toolbox there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one. And then yeah. And then of course, based on the content, there's, different alignments based on what you're teaching in different classes. I mean, if you're doing a lesson in earthquake science in environmental science class, or in data collection, right? We've got data scientists. So there's a clear connection to what you're teaching when you're teaching kids spreadsheets and how to use them. There's careers that actually do that. Let's bring one of those people in to talk to our students. So that's a great question. Are there any other questions? Let's see, there's another chat box. This would help show the importance to our EPSOs. Absolutely. Dual enrollment and getting those opportunities as well for students to see why they might want to go to some of those skills-based challenges and do those after those different clubs. It's so critical. I mean, and it's happened in Chattanooga where they have Skills USA come, and it's such an incredible organization, and students can see those connections. Good. So that's what TNCAPS is. It's a growing dynamic thing. It's not static. It's adding businesses and industries. We hope to probably increase the number of businesses in there considerably in the coming year. I had, an example recently where a maintenance, automotive maintenance professional went to the school and talked to the students about what they did, and then the students really connected to that, which was great. So I don't know. I think it's just a nice resource that's curated, right, and dynamic and growing. So I wanted you to know that was there. So that is just the tncaps.com. You can just share that link with your teachers. I will just add, if you wanted me to take your teachers through any of this at any point, you can always email our team. I'll put the general team email and then my email, info@learningblade.com or joshua@learningblade. And we can schedule PD on just, how to use these resources and actually maybe even take them through the resource, more of the resources. But I just want to point out, because I think this is the sharing is caring part to what Vicki just said on RTI. Obviously there's RTI in middle school, right? So I know we're going to talk to middle school principals tomorrow and elementary school, but as you remember when I logged in here, there's kindergarten and elementary lessons. And I just want you to know this. I've been doing this career connection and lessons through the Learning Blade system for the last 7 years in Tennessee. And one of the #1 questions I get is, when will you have elementary lessons? Because you want to prime the pump. You want to get kids excited for the high school coursework, but they got to know like why they want to take that and those connections. So I would love for you to also share this in your local team meetings with your down a step to the middle and elementary teachers. Did you know that these career connections are in here for kindergarten through ninth grade as well? So please feel free to do that. Thank you so much. Okay, now I want to show you Learning Blade. It's a little different, and I'm going to come back to the slides for that. But I will just say this requires an account, and the reason is it's students are logging in individually, answering questions online, self-grading and collecting data on student performance, and then teacher sees all that data. Because it's a student data collection, you need your own account. So you can get your account by coming to learningblade.com/TN, and then just say, I want a new account for my school or for my district, fill in the form, and then we'll send it to you tomorrow, right? We do work with Clever. I don't know if you're a Clever, single student sign-on or Schoology, but we can work with those programs as well. Going back to Learning Blade. So y'all are familiar with with Perkins 5, I'm guessing. Yes, head shakes from those of you with videos on. Thank you. So that's, the federal focus on career education. They actually have said that we got to start sooner. We got to start earlier. So, like it's too late if we wait till 11th grade to introduce students to mechatronics, right? If we can get students learning about mechatronics or learning about the healthcare pathways, or learning about my personal passion in when I'm reading online is all the energy stuff that's going on as a former, fellow at the Department of Energy. But there's incredible job demand in some of these sectors. And so providing your ninth grade teachers with Learning Blade, or even your 10th grade teachers, as would I guarantee, I just know for a fact, because I've worked with tens of thousands of, we have hundreds of thousands of students logged in. It supports students' development of relevance building. Why am I learning math? Right? We see so many kids turn off their math brain in ninth grade because they don't think they're gonna, I'm not gonna be using math. I'm gonna be a TikTok star. I'm gonna be a football player. I'm gonna be a basketball stud or whatever. If we can start to build in them the recognition that all these careers in STEM and computer science have math skills, that'd be great. And that's really what our data suggests we're doing for math and science and English. So, women are underrepresented in the STEM workforce. As a father of 3 daughters, this is a little bit concerning for me. Have you guys heard of Draw a Scientist? Has anyone heard of Draw a Scientist, the experiment? I see some no's. So it's just an interesting little side story. But they asked students to draw a scientist, 5,000 students. And they did this in the 70s, 99% drew men. So 100% of girls drew men. So girls didn't see themselves as scientists because they hadn't been exposed to the role models. And they redid that in 2005, and it's about 50% of girls draw men and 50 draw women, and still about 95% of boys draw boys, which is whatever. The point is students need to feel represented. They need to see themselves. And so one of the goals of Learning Blade is to expose students to STEM in that early grade, 8th, 9th grade level, so they can get excited. This was front page of USA Today. And I don't know if this is true for any of you. I always like asking this, like, you guys are doing great work, obviously, but 42% of Americans say they would have considered STEM courses if they better understood the career path. So I ask you to reflect on your own career path. Like if you had known about STEM, more STEMmy stuff then, would you have chosen something different? I always think about that myself. Like I was right at that age where, if I had learned about app design, who knows, I just started using apps. I never learned how to build apps. So inside of Learning Blade, there are 100 career-connected lessons with a math, a science, an English, and a social studies lesson aligned to ninth grade standards. So we're reinforcing standards while contextualizing or building relevance for the students. We have, there's 12 missions. Each mission is 8 to 10 hours of curriculum. And so this is more than you need. I call it a giant buffet, but my favorite, and this is just going back to Principal McDonald's question, where can you integrate Learning Blade? Same answer as all those other classes, but my favorite is because this is self-paced online career exploration and learning as early finisher activities. Students are finishing early all the time in math class and science and English. And then there's a little bit of 10 minutes here and 8 minutes here of downtime for that student, for this handful of students. How can we maximize the learning potential by giving them resources that extend the learning? So each of these missions is a real world problem, whether you're rescuing a dolphin, building an orphanage, designing clean energy or looking at clean energy solutions, building a robot, your school's been hacked. What are the careers and technologies? We're really trying to help students give resources to teachers, give resources to students that helps them see the context of their skills being applied in the workforce. And so that's what we got in Learning Blade, 400 online lessons. But in addition to that, we've developed problem-solving prompts for teamwork. So if any of your schools are looking at project-based learning and design thinking, which I think is a big buzzword in the STEM circles, we've created design thinking activities, right? So a classic design thinking experiment is the egg drop, which can be done at any grade level to increasing levels of complexity. But we've created things like that for every mission in Learning Blade. So our amputee dolphin rescue mission asked students to consider a military veteran who suffered an amputation, and what changes would they make to a car to accommodate that veteran. And so really trying to look at real world, connecting with empathy, connecting with the problem solving domain, and building those critical thinking skills, collaboration, communication, creativity. And so that's what these are doing. We have lessons for 3D printers. Raise your hand if you guys use 3D printers, have 3D printers. Awesome. So we have some really dynamic lessons for 3D printers. We have one on building prosthetics. We've got one on like printing airplanes and testing the flight time of your airplane. We have another on building windmills and testing your wind blades or turbine blades. All sorts of different lessons, an aquaponics lesson. We even have a coding lesson for 3D printers where your code is printed out. So we call it CAD to code. So we've got some dynamic lesson plans for your teachers there. Career videos. I like these. I'm going to show you live in a second. Every career in Learning Blade has a 2-minute video, plus it asks 2 questions to check for understanding, and then shows the salary range. So students are getting those. And then lastly, we have parent discussions, right? So really, you learned about these careers and technologies. How can we engage the family at home to start a conversation about what careers the students are interested in? Our fresh food mission, for example, asked students to have a conversation at home about the number of careers that were involved in getting a fresh tomato onto your kitchen table, right? Sometimes it's just a local produce, but what if it transported, logistics, even the students will know about the chemistry that was involved in the fertilizers, and they're going to go into all the different careers that are involved in the food chain and recognize that there's a lot of opportunities to be in the ag industry and maybe have that conversation. So each mission, as you can see in Learning Blade, has a career, and the career has 4 lessons: a social studies, a science, an English, and a math. Each of these lessons is 10 to 12 minutes long. So they're short snippets of learning in the career context, which is why they work fundamentally wonderfully as bell ringers early finisher, start a class, end a class. Maybe a lot of teachers do this, everyone, is they ask students to do Learning Blade Friday. Just once a week, do one career lesson. So like every week, if you did one 10-minute lesson at the start of class, by the end of the school year, you've learned about 40 careers, right? That, you know, I personally had never heard of, where is it? A UI UX designer. So prior to being at Learning Blade, never heard it. So that means I would have never introduced my students to it. That means unless they got it from their mom or dad or uncle, they don't know it exists. That's the point here. Easy to integrate resource that's expanding the career vocabulary of your students. Fresh food, this is my favorite mission. I grew up next to a farm, drove by it every single day. And I thought the only job on a farm was a farmer. Here, they're going to learn about agricultural engineers, agronomists, microbiologists, right? Livestock and crop yield, organic farming methods. So this could be a great additional resource for an ag teacher. Our car manufacturing, do I have it anywhere? Nope. Could be great for, you know, your automotive teacher. Our business lesson, do I have that anywhere? Well, we have our entrepreneurship mission for a business teacher. And then I just want to add, we just created a 20-hour coding block. So I know that coding is now becoming a more of a required course in Tennessee. There's new computer science standards. And so in 9th grade, what we have is called Intro to Coding. It's 20 hours, so it's not a whole semester. We would supplement the work that your teacher's already doing with code.org or with your Amazon engineers or your Gateway to Technology teachers. But I've just launched this, or we just launched this in February, late February, and I had about 50 teachers be my first set of pilot teachers from around the country, Tennessee included. And the feedback has been overwhelming and phenomenal, that it's well organized. It puts all the data into one place. I just had a high school class in Idaho. Their students send me the student quotes, and they said they learned so much about cybersecurity concepts. They began programming in Python, which got them excited. And so our Intro to Coding, it's the only mission in Learning Blade where we ask students to leave the ecosystem and go to code.org and do this lesson and come back, and then leave Learning Blade and go to the app lab, design an app and come back, and then go to Pencil Code and write the code for a game and come back. So we have all sorts of resources. What it really is if you're new to coding instruction in your school district, it would help your teacher find resources that are highly valuable, vetted across the CS industry, and give them the instructions and lesson plans on how to get started with Vex VR, Pencil Code, App Lab, and all these cool resources. So that's something we have inside of Learning Blade. So let me go ahead and let me just show you the research, and then I'll log in live. So, after using this program, students are 140% more likely to say they know what a STEM worker does. To me, that's why you use this as a supplement or an enrichment, to help your students see a better, clearer lens of what STEM looks like. This was actually a comment by a teacher in my session yesterday at the TSIN, the STEM Summit. My students don't know what STEM means, right? We use the word STEM all the time, but my students don't really know what it means. That's the whole point of Learning Blade, so that they understand that STEM does not mean PhD scientist. It could, but it could also mean your automotive technician, your weatherization person. It could be your healthcare, phlebotomist is a STEM job. So we're really trying to show them that the assembly line and mechatronics and robotics are STEM jobs. So really trying to expand that understanding of STEM. And then after using Learning Blade, we see a 79% increase in students saying math is helpful when solving interesting real world problems. So just as a supplement enrichment, we're showing every career has a math lesson. That's data you want your students to have, and you don't have to use it a lot to get it, because we're doing something that's not traditionally done in your math class or in many classes, which is here's a direct connection to math as an environmental engineer. Now go be an environmental engineer, do some math problems. So let me show you that. Let me get in there and show you that. I'll also look at this though, 69% increase in students saying what I learned in school is useful later in life. So that's building relevance, and a doubling of the number of students that want to become an engineer or scientist. Okay, so I'm going to log into LearningBlade and show it to you and then answer any questions you have. I think I see something in the chat box right now. Let me put this in the chat box. I'm going to put all the mission diagrams in the chat box for you. Is there a length of time associated with LearningBlade lesson caps and the TN caps lesson plans? Great question. Yeah, so the TN caps lesson plans were designed to be a standard 45-minute period. So the TN caps, who asked that question? Because it's a really good question. Thanks, Principal McDonald. TN caps are designed to be a period, a full classroom lesson. LearningBlade was designed to be supplemental. And so let me just explain real quick. A mission in LearningBlade is 8 to 10 hours. Car manufacturing, this is 8, there's 45 lessons. There's 8 hours of curriculum here. So some schools use this over a quarter. Early finish activity in 9th grade this quarter, first quarter, car manufacturing. Second quarter, if you finish early, do the entrepreneurship mission. But each lesson, Principal McDonald and LearningBlade, is only about 10 to 15 minutes long. So you can just pick a lesson, choose which one you want to supplement your class with today, tomorrow. Did I put that in the chat box? Oh, there you go. Okay. Just want to log in and show you live what this one looks like. So a teacher would log in, and whether you use Clever or not, you can create classes, as many classes as you want. Each class has a class code, so you use that to roster your students. When you click on your class, you can add assignments to your class. So this is just like standard classroom pedagogy. I want my students to do these assignments, so I assign it. You could look at standards, saying, hey, I really want to find out who knows Pythagorean theorem and who's mastered that, or solving exponential equations, analyzing and solving linear equations, right? 8.EE.7. So I could find this standard, search for which lessons cover that standard. So we are aligned to standards and searchable by standards. Yep. And then you can also just, I call this coming to the buffet, but you can just search by careers, right? If you wanted to assign your students this month, a different engineering career every day or every week, you could assign a career. You can break apart the missions. All those resources I mentioned are here on the resources tab. So here's our 3D printer lessons. Let me show you this one. So we have a robotic claw. It downloads the teacher lesson plan, but students are gonna, build with gears. So you're really building a complex machine with gears and then using it for a lesson, and getting their 3D printer. So this is gonna help expand their mind on what you can do with a 3D printer, with movable parts to the parts you're printing. Maybe a first lesson in movable 3D printable parts. Or we have, let's see, prosthetics, right? We have a whole lesson on building prosthetics. There was a high school in Chattanooga that invited an amputee to their classroom. I love this story. And talk to them about being an amputee, that this person didn't have an arm, and what are the challenges. And the amputee talked about sipping soup or eating soup is the biggest challenge because the spoon will spill out with the amputee. And so the students actually designed, after they learned and empathized, they designed a spoon that was gimbaled, right, on their 3D printer. And so like real world connection to how you can connect with your community. And they got that through doing our 3D printing lesson here. So again, lesson plans and everything's here. What does the student side of LearningBlade look like? Students log in. Let's say they were coming to the car or the energy mission, and they wanted to look at maybe what does a nuclear engineer do? And here's a math lesson on the cost of nuclear power. or an English lesson on the benefits of uses of nuclear energy, a science lesson on how a nuclear power plant works, and even a video lesson. So let me start there because I told you I'd show you those. I like these. So this, you can see, I hope you can see as I'm logged in, a student could use, a teacher, a school, a system, a grade, could use this as a student choice. You're still getting data, but maybe Josh chose nuclear engineer, maybe Tim Campbell really wanted to go look at environmental engineer, right? We get choices, right? And then teachers getting feedback on what students are choosing. Here's the video lesson. So everything in Learning Blade's reading based. So reading informational text is the college and career ready skill we believe students need to develop. So much so, we also work, we're so excited to work with Niswonger on all the STEM work they're doing. We also work with Gear Up, the largest Gear Up grant in the country, which is really about helping low-income students be college and career ready. They use Learning Blade in 8th and 9th grade to make sure students are exposed and building those skills and that career aspiration. So students would watch a short video, 1 minute and 27 seconds on nuclear engineers, and then answer a multi-choice question on how, did you pay attention to the video? If you get it wrong, you can't go forward. Got to try twice. If you get it wrong twice, you've lost points. Your grade's gone down. But every question is followed by the correct answer, which allows, again, for that self-paced learning and reflection. And then on page 7 of the video lessons, these students can realize, whoa, that's some bankroll, right? Nuclear engineer, 102,000. A lot of people get into the nuclear engineering industry, a lot. I know because my neighbor was one, and one of my good friends is in the power plant business through the military, working on subs, working on aircraft carriers. So there's also a military connection there. But then, okay, I like that. I want to see that math lesson for building a nuclear power plant. Just focus in with me here real quick, reading. So it is math, but you're reading about the cost of nuclear energy, right? You're reading about the career of nuclear energy. And now we're going to do some, think about where nuclear energy occurs in the reactor, right? But we're going to need to talk about the comparison of power usage and how much it would cost to build a nuclear plant. So students are reading about how do you get a plant built. And obviously, if anyone studies this issue, no new nuclear power plants have been built in quite a while because of the regulatory hurdles in the United States. It's just so costly. And so they're learning about that here. And now we're going to do some math, right? Assume that an average nuclear plant will produce 4 gigawatts of nuclear energy. The construction cost per kilowatt, okay, we had a gigawatt, but this is a kilowatt. I'm seeing a conversion required, is 2,000. And the US government is giving 1.8 cents per kilowatt for 3 years. Oh boy, now what do I got to do? Okay, so I'm going to have to round to the nearest billion. All right, well, that's giving me a hint right away that it's not this one. But anyways, on the next page, it's going to show students how you would have solved this. We're going to convert kilowatts to gigawatts or gigawatts to kilowatts. And then you're going to multiply that by 2,000, then multiply that by your percentage and multiply that by, and you're getting your answer, right? So you can see, I hope you can see that in Learning Blade, they're practicing online standards-based questions, exam-like situation while they're learning about careers. So we were created by the former vice presidents of ACT work keys. So this has a concomitant benefit of building students, skills for online test taking. So here we're looking at exponential notation. Are we getting it right? Do we understand exponential notation? Right? Operating costs. So that's what you have here. This is a math lesson. We could look at an English lesson, right? Or even a science lesson, or we could switch over to other careers. So in summary, really, that's what you guys have here. 400 online lessons in math and science and English and social studies, really connecting your students to careers maybe they've never heard of. An agronomist, right? They could watch the video. They could do an English lesson, a day in the life of an agronomist. They can explore It can be self-paced, but it can also be teacher-led, teacher-directed, teacher-centered. The spectrum of how it's used can be integrated across, anywhere from teacher-centered to student-centered. I have a quote book of students, thousands of students' quotes, thousands upon thousands, and they all generally say about the same thing. It was interesting to learn about careers I'd never heard about. I'm more interested in some of these careers. And so many students like using Learning Blade that they're asking their teachers to use it more because of the learning that's happening, the connection to the real world careers. So I will pause there, see if there's any questions. This was to show you guys, like Principal McDonald, I don't expect you to go launch Learning Blade, right? I expect what would be ideal is, hey, Josh, this looks great. Can you connect with my teachers on this day, on this time? The answer is yes. We've got a team in the office that do trainings. So if you said, I'd love for this one teacher, we will train your one teacher for free. Hopefully some of you are teachers. I see someone whose title is teacher, so you can use this. But we're here to help you get started. As well, I can also, at this point, if anyone wanted to, I can check if it's already turned on in your Clever district. If you know your school system is Clever, I can quickly check if you put it in the chat box, or I can answer questions and stick around. Yeah, you've got these two resources. And let me just say one last thing. I'm sorry, about to shut up. We're creating something brand new as well. Will be ready in August. I don't even have a slide on it. That's how new it is, but we're building it, called Ready for Industry. And it'll be for upper high school, 11th and 12th grade. And what that will do will be, there'll be 20-hour courses in the 5 main industries that are hiring right now. So construction, healthcare, IT. Someone help me. I'm not sure what the other 2 are. The other people are building it, but it'll be a 20-hour course. So if you were looking at healthcare, it's going to show you the different paths. Like you could go off into X-ray tech, or you could go off into nursing, or you could go off into paramedic. And then these are the different lessons to build your vocabulary and understanding of the system. Same thing for construction, right? Like what is a stud versus what is a, gosh, I just built the house. What are all those terms? All those different terms in building a house is right. So what is the process? Like when you build a house, at what point does drywall go in? So giving people some understanding of the industry so that if they're really saying that's what I want to do when I grow up, they can take this 20-hour course, get a certificate, and really show that they've passed something that's challenging and rigorous. That'll be coming. So questions? Vicki, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Joshua. Do you have your email in the chat for them to contact you?
Yeah, and if you're interested in that, what I just said, the Ready for Industry, those 20-hour courses, you could also just email me and say, let me know when that's ready, and I can let you know. You can email me anything you want. Oops, I did that wrong. info@learningblade.com. That's the one that goes to everyone on the team. So that's really the best email. Training's free. The resources are free. The chamber's paid for it. It's paid through next year again. So this will be our 8th year in Tennessee. In Tennessee, over 1 million lessons have been completed already. So just sort of curious in the chat box what you thought. If you want to put your, if this is something you think you might use, that'd be great to hear. Or I don't know, any feedback is welcome. But definitely thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or feedback to add? Okay. I think my microphone was muted earlier, so if you did have questions, I did not hear you.
Here we go. There's something in the chat box. Let me just see what that says. Yeah, awesome. Perfect, Tim Campbell. That sounds great. Yeah, it would be a wonderful addition to anybody's career exploration program. I will just add this summer, I don't know if anyone's looking at summer programming. It would also work, right? We can work with if you have a summer program that's doing middle school, high school group of students, your transition to 8th to 9th grade, I would love to train that teacher on how to get started. I'm actually, not that it matters, but we're doing this statewide. The entire state of Arizona is using Learning Blade as part of their summer programming because they think students should do reading, informational text in the summer, but also learn about STEM. So that's what we're getting. Yeah. I'm doing a pilot with United Way in Tennessee this summer as well for summer programming. So that would be, we'd love to include you in our summer program opportunities and work with any of your summer staff as well. Well, thank you.
Okay, if no one else has any other questions, then I will send this recording to you later, also with the information on the cybersecurity camp. And feel free to contact me, text me, or email me with any other questions. Thank you for your time.
Shay, do you have that information on some of the camps that are available at Walter State this summer? Is that on the website somewhere?
It should be on the calendar of events on our website, but I will double check after this is over and I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, guys.